The massive crystal ships of the Zephyrian Empire moved through space like floating cities. Each vessel stretched for miles and carried thousands of alien warriors. For 3,000 years they had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. No species had ever dared to challenge their power. Ambassador Kethvar stood in the Grand Council chamber on the capital world. His forearms waved as he spoke to the ruling council. The chamber was filled with hundreds of Zephyrian nobles, their scaled skin gleaming under the bright lights. Honored members of the council, Kethvar said, his voice echoing through the vast room. The humans have sent us another message. They claim they own something called Terran space. This includes their home planet and 17 colonies around nearby stars. The council members clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their species. Fleet Admiral Zaxthul rose from his seat. His uniform was covered in medals from 1,000 victories. These humans think they can tell the mighty empire what to do, he said. How long have they been flying between stars? Less than 200 years, Admiral, Kethvar replied. Our scouts say they have fewer than 300 ships total. Their biggest vessel is only 2 kilometers long. More laughter filled the chamber. Empress Velnara raised one scaled hand for silence. She was ancient even by Zephyrian standards, having ruled for over 8 centuries. Have they shown any special weapons or technology that might threaten us? She asked. Kethvar hesitated before answering. They seem very good at fighting, Your Majesty. Their military tactics are unusual. They call it asymmetric warfare. But their technology looks primitive compared to ours. Then we will ignore their warnings, the Empress declared. The route through their system is our most profitable trade path to the outer rim worlds. We will not change course because some young mammals are frightened. The council cheered and stamped their feet. The decision was made. The Empire would send a fleet through human space whether the humans liked it or not. What the Zephyrians did not know was that Captain Jake Morrison was listening to every word. His small stealth ship, the EDF Ranger, hung invisible in space near their capital. Advanced human technology made his vessel completely undetectable to Zephyrian sensors. Jake had been monitoring their communications for weeks. His weathered face showed no emotion as he recorded their decision. He had fought in many battles during his 30 years of service. He knew what was coming next. He sent a coded message back to Earth using quantum communication technology. The message was simple. Warning ignored. They are coming. Recommend Protocol 7. On Earth, General Lisa Chang received the message in her command center deep underground. The facility was hidden beneath the Swiss Alps and could survive a direct nuclear strike. Hundreds of officers worked at computer stations monitoring threats across the galaxy. Ma'am, Captain Morrison reports the Zephyrians have rejected our territorial claims, said Colonel Peter Hayes, her aide. They plan to send a fleet through our space. Chang nodded grimly. She had expected this outcome. The Zephyrians were too arrogant to take human warning seriously. They saw humanity as a young, weak species that could be easily bullied. The cabinet is still debating whether we should show them our real military strength, Hayes continued. Chang's smile was cold and dangerous. The cabinet does not understand what we learned during the Centauri campaign. Sometimes the only way to prevent a war is to win it before the enemy knows it has started. She walked to a large holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of Zephyrian scout ships at the edge of human territory. They had been testing human defenses for months, always staying just outside the boundary lines. How many ships are they sending? She asked. Intelligence estimates 300 capital ships plus support vessels, replied Colonel Hayes. Standard, Imperial Intimidation Force. Chang activated her personal communicator and sent a priority message to all EDF commanders throughout the system. This is General Chang. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. All stealth units to combat readiness. Ghost Fleet is authorized to engage. Across human space, hidden bases came alive with activity. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids or space debris suddenly powered up their engines. Crews that had been waiting in suspended animation were awakened and rushed to battle stations. The humans had been preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries. Since first contact with the Zephyrians, they had known this day would come. The aliens were conquerors by nature. They would never accept human independence. Captain Susan Blake commanded the EDF destroyer Guardian from her position on the bridge. Her ship looked small and primitive from the outside, exactly as the humans intended. The Zephyrians would see it as an easy target. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's communication system. "The aliens have rejected our warnings. They think we are weak and defenseless. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The Guardian was equipped with experimental phase cloak technology that made it invisible to all known sensor types. More importantly, it could phase in and out of normal space, allowing it to appear inside enemy ships and attack from within. Blake had trained for this mission her entire adult life. She knew the Zephyrian ships were larger and more heavily armed, but size and firepower meant nothing if you could not hit your target. Meanwhile, Admiral Dan Cooper sat in his office at EDF headquarters on Luna. Through his window, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Soon, alien warships would come to destroy that beautiful world. But Cooper was not worried. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for this invasion. Every human colony was a fortress. Every trade ship was equipped with hidden weapons. Every peaceful gesture had been carefully calculated to make the aliens underestimate human strength. The Zephyrians thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had gotten lucky with faster-than-light travel. They had no idea they were about to face the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever produced. Cooper activated his secure communicator and spoke to commanders throughout the solar system. "This is Admiral Cooper. The Empire has chosen war over peace. All units are cleared to engage with maximum force. Show them why we warned them to stay away." As the message went out, thousands of human warriors prepared for battle. They were outnumbered 10 to 1, but they had advantages the aliens could not imagine. They were fighting for their homes, their families, and their freedom. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that some warnings should be taken seriously. 3 weeks later, the Imperial fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. Space itself seemed to bend as hundreds of massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. The Zephyrian vessels were enormous, each one a floating city bristling with weapons and shield generators. Fleet Admiral Zaxthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 15 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Around him, his officers worked at control stations that glowed with alien technology. "Impressive, is it not?" Zaxthul said to his second-in-command. 300 of the Empire's finest warships. This show of force should convince the humans to surrender immediately. Through the massive windows of the bridge, he could see the other ships in his fleet. Dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, and destroyers stretched across space in perfect formation. Each vessel represented centuries of Zephyrian military engineering. "Sir, we are detecting human ships ahead," reported the tactical officer. 47 vessels arranged in defensive positions around their home planet. Zaxthul examined the tactical display. The human ships looked tiny compared to his fleet. Their largest vessel was barely the size of a Zephyrian escort frigate. "Open communications with their homeworld," he commanded. "Inform these humans that the Zephyrian Empire claims passage rights through their system. Any resistance will be crushed by the full might of our Navy." The response came quickly from Captain Susan Blake aboard the EDF destroyer Guardian. Her voice was calm and professional as it echoed through the Imperial flagship's bridge. "Imperial Fleet, you are in violation of clearly marked territorial boundaries. You have 30 minutes to reverse course and exit Terran space immediately. This is your only warning." The bridge fell silent. Zaxthul's translator had difficulty processing the concept of humans giving ultimatums to the Empire. His mandibles clicked in amusement. "Did I hear correctly? These primitives are threatening us?" "Tactical assessment confirms only 47 human vessels, Admiral," his weapons officer reported. "All significantly smaller than our light cruisers. Their orbital defense platforms appear to be basic mining stations." Zaxthul had crushed hundreds of rebellions during his long career. He knew that sometimes a demonstration of power was more effective than words. "Target their lead vessel," he ordered. "Fire a warning shot across their bow. When they see what our weapons can do, They will quickly change their attitude. The Eternal Dominion's main battery charged with a sound like thunder. The massive plasma cannon could punch through the armor of any known starship. A concentrated beam of superheated energy lanced out toward the Guardian, but the beam passed through empty space. The human ship had simply vanished. "Where did they go?" Zaxthul demanded, his voice rising in alarm. Before his tactical officer could respond, explosions began rocking ships throughout the Imperial formation. Somehow, human vessels were appearing inside their defensive perimeter, launching devastating attacks before disappearing again. Commander Rick Torres piloted the EDF stealth bomber Nighthawk through the enemy fleet like a ghost. His ship's phase cloak made it completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors. He could fly right through their shields and armor as if they were not there. "Phase cloak holding steady," he reported to his crew. "Target acquired. Launching quantum torpedoes." The Nighthawk materialized just long enough to fire its weapons directly into the hull of a Zephyrian cruiser. The quantum torpedoes phased through the ship's armor and detonated inside the engine room. The massive alien vessel broke apart in a brilliant explosion. "Direct hit," Torres announced with satisfaction. "Target destroyed. Moving to next objective." All around the Imperial fleet, the same scene was playing out. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating accuracy, then vanished before the aliens could return fire. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see or track. Captain Blake watched the battle from the Guardian's bridge. Her ship's advanced sensors showed her the positions of every enemy vessel. The Zephyrians were flying in tight formations, perfect targets for hit-and-run attacks. "All units, this is Guardian Actual," she broadcast on the tactical frequency. "Execute attack pattern Alpha 7. Focus on their command ships first." The EDF had studied Zephyrian tactics for centuries. They knew the aliens relied on centralized command structures. If the human forces could eliminate the enemy commanders, the rest of the fleet would fall into chaos. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster aboard the stealth frigate Shadow Strike targeted the bridge of an Imperial dreadnought. Her ship phased through the enemy shields and fired a spread of quantum mines directly into their command center. "Bridge destroyed," she reported. "Enemy vessel is dead in space." The battle continued for 6 hours. The Zephyrians tried everything they could think of to detect the human ships. They fired randomly into empty space, hoping to hit something. They deployed sensor nets and energy-dampening fields. Nothing worked. Admiral Zaxthul watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed by an enemy he could not fight. Half his ships were already destroyed or disabled. The survivors were scattered and demoralized. "Sir, we must retreat," his tactical officer urged. "We cannot fight what we cannot see." Zaxthul's pride as an Imperial admiral warred with his duty to preserve his remaining forces. Around him, more explosions lit up the darkness as human ships continued their relentless assault. "All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance," he finally ordered. "Emergency jump to hyperspace as soon as possible." The surviving Zephyrian vessels fled the solar system in complete disorder. Many were so badly damaged they barely made it to hyperspace. Others limped away with their engines failing and their crews in panic. As the last alien ship disappeared, Captain Blake surveyed the battlefield. Hundreds of pieces of wreckage floated in space where the mighty Imperial fleet had been. Not a single human ship had been lost. "All units, report status," she commanded. One by one, the EDF ships decloaked and reported in. Every vessel was intact and ready for combat. The most advanced military force in the galaxy had been defeated without inflicting a single casualty. On the defenders, Admiral Zaxthul sat in his damaged command chair aboard the crippled Eternal Dominion. His ship was barely holding together, its engines dead and life support failing. Around him, his surviving officers worked frantically to keep them alive. "Send a priority transmission to the Imperial capital," he ordered weakly. "Inform them that the humans possess technology far beyond our intelligence estimates. They have some form of cloaking device that makes them completely invisible to our sensors." The message that reached the Zephyrian homeworld sent shockwaves through the Empire. For the first time in 1,000 years, an Imperial fleet had been defeated in battle. The humans had not just won, they had completely humiliated the finest military force in the galaxy. But this was only the beginning. The Empire would not accept such a defeat lying down. They would return with overwhelming force, and next time they would be prepared for human trickery. News of the defeat at Sol spread through the Zephyrian Empire like wildfire. For the first time in a millennium, an Imperial fleet had been completely destroyed by an inferior force. On the capital world, emergency sessions were called as the ruling council struggled to understand what had happened. Empress Velnara paced back and forth in her private chambers, her scaled skin flushed with rage. The reports from Admiral Zax Thule made no sense. How could primitive humans defeat the most advanced military in the galaxy? Summon the chief science officer, she commanded her guards. I want answers, and I want them now. Chief Science Officer. Mortet arrived within minutes, his forearms trembling with fear. He had served the Empire for over 2 centuries, but he had never seen the Empress this angry. Your Majesty, he began nervously, our analysis of the battle data shows that the humans possess some form of advanced cloaking technology. Their ships can become completely invisible to all our sensors. How is this possible? The Empress demanded. Our intelligence report said they were centuries behind our technology. Mortet swallowed nervously. It appears our assessment was based on deliberate deception, Your Majesty. The humans showed us only what they wanted us to see during first contact. They have been hiding their true capabilities all along. The Empress slammed her fist on the table, cracking the crystal surface. Then we will respond with overwhelming force. Assemble the 3rd, 7th, and 9th battle groups. 2,000 ships should be more than enough to crush any human resistance. Your Majesty, perhaps we should attempt negotiations first, Mortet suggested carefully. The humans have shown they can be dangerous opponents. The Empress turned on him with fury in her eyes. The Empire does not negotiate with rebels and terrorists. We will destroy their homeworld and scatter their survivors across the galaxy as slaves. That will teach other species not to challenge our authority. Meanwhile, on Earth, the victory had bought humanity precious time. In his office at EDF headquarters, Admiral Dan Cooper studied holographic displays showing the massive fleet assembling at the Imperial staging area. The enemy was gathering forces from across the galaxy. They are bringing everything they have this time, he told his senior staff. Intelligence estimates nearly 2,000 ships in the combined battle groups. Dr. Amy Foster, the lead scientist on Project Ghostwalk, leaned forward over the briefing table. The phase cloaking technology worked perfectly in the first battle, but we cannot outfit the entire fleet in time. We have maybe 60 ships with full stealth capability. Cooper nodded grimly. What about the other projects? Are they ready for deployment? Colonel Bob Turner from Special Weapons Division activated another holographic display. Project Sundance is ready for field testing. We have deployed quantum disruptor networks throughout the outer system. The AI tactical cores have also finished their analysis of Zephyrian battle doctrine. And Project Phantom? Cooper asked. Turner smiled coldly. The molecular phase drive prototypes are operational. We can now shift our ships in and out of normal space at will. The aliens think invisibility was our only trick. They have no idea what we can really do. Cooper stood and walked to the large windows overlooking Luna City. Through the transparent aluminum, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Soon the largest fleet in galactic history would come to destroy that beautiful world. Signal all fleet commanders, he ordered. Prepare for Phase 2 operations. It is time to show the Empire what 3 centuries of preparation looks like. The Second Imperial Assault began exactly 3 weeks after the first defeat. This time, the Zephyrians were prepared for human stealth technology. They deployed advanced sensor nets and energy-dampening fields designed to detect cloaked vessels. Admiral Kethvar commanded the assault force from his flagship, the Divine Retribution. He had studied the battle recordings from Sol obsessively, looking for weaknesses in human tactics. All ships maintain tight formation, he broadcast to his fleet. Deploy the new sensor grids. These humans will not catch us by surprise again. As the Imperial fleet entered the outer solar system, they encountered what appeared to be a small human patrol force. 5 destroyers were running with minimal power, broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. Finally, they show wisdom, Kethvar said with satisfaction. They realize they cannot fight the full might of the Empire. His tactical officer looked puzzled. Sir, the energy readings from those ships are very strange. They appear to be fluctuating between normal matter and something else. Accept their surrender and prepare boarding parties, Kethavar ordered. We will make an example of these humans. But as the Imperial ships moved to intercept the surrendering vessels, something impossible happened. The human destroyers suddenly accelerated to incredible speeds, heading straight for the alien formation. Evasive action, Kethavar shouted. All ships, open fire. Thousands of plasma bolts and energy beams lanced out toward the approaching human ships, but the weapons passed right through them as if they were made of light. The destroyers continued their charge, passing through the hulls of the Zephyrian vessels like ghosts. Captain Tim Ross commanded the EDF destroyer Phoenix as it phased through the hull of a massive battlecruiser. His ship existed in a state between normal matter and pure energy, able to pass through solid objects at will. Phase drive functioning perfectly, he reported to his crew. Materializing inside the enemy engine room in 3, 2, 1, the Phoenix suddenly became solid again, its hull occupying the same space as the alien ship's reactor core. The resulting explosion tore the battlecruiser apart from the inside, sending debris flying in all directions, all around the Imperial fleet. The same devastating attack was repeated. Human ships would phase through enemy hulls like ghosts, then rematerialize inside critical sections and detonate their self-destruct charges. Admiral Kethavar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by an enemy that could become solid or ethereal at will. This was beyond anything the Empire had ever encountered. How are they doing this, he demanded of his science officer. Unknown, sir. They appear to be manipulating matter at the quantum level. Our weapons cannot target something that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The battle lasted only 4 hours this time. When it ended, the entire Imperial assault force had been destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost, while over 2,000 alien vessels had been reduced to floating wreckage. As the last enemy ship exploded, Admiral Cooper received reports from across the solar system. The quantum disruptor network had functioned perfectly, preventing any Zephyrian vessel from escaping to hyperspace. Sir, we have also detected massive fleet movements in 17 other systems, reported his intelligence officer. It appears the Empire is mobilizing everything they have. Cooper nodded thoughtfully. Then it is time for the final phase of our plan. Signal the Deep Strike Fleet. Tell them Operation Prometheus is authorized. Across human space, hidden shipyards that had been disguised as mining operations suddenly revealed their true purpose. Massive construction facilities began launching vessels that dwarfed anything seen before. The humans had been building their real fleet in secret for over 2 centuries. What the Empire had seen was only the tip of the iceberg. Now they would face the full military might of a species that had spent 300 years preparing for this exact moment. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin in earnest. The destruction of the Second Imperial Fleet sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Emergency councils were called on every major world as species that had been under Zephyrian rule for centuries began to question the Empire's invincibility. Some brave leaders started to whisper about rebellion. On the Imperial capital world, Empress Velnara sat alone in her throne room, studying the tactical recordings of the latest defeat. The massive chamber was empty except for her guards, its crystal walls reflecting her scaled face in thousands of fragments. General Haxmore, her most trusted advisor, entered the chamber with obvious reluctance. He had served the Empire for over 3 centuries and had never seen the Empress look so disturbed. Your Majesty, he began carefully, our scientists have completed their analysis of the human technology. The news is not good. Tell me, she commanded, her voice echoing through the vast space. The humans have developed technology that operates outside all known physical laws. They can alter the quantum state of matter itself, allowing their ships to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. This makes conventional warfare impossible. The Empress stood and walked to the great windows that looked out over her capital city. Millions of Zephyrians went about their daily lives below, unaware that their 1,000-year empire was crumbling. How did they advance so quickly? Our records show they were a primitive species just decades ago. Haxmore activated a holographic display showing human historical data. That is where we made our greatest mistake, Your Majesty. Our intelligence was completely wrong about their nature. We have been monitoring their past communications, and we have discovered something truly terrifying. The display showed images from human history, battles, wars, and conflicts stretching back thousands of years. The Empress watched in growing horror as she saw the endless cycle of violence that had shaped human civilization. They have been fighting wars for their entire recorded history, Haxmore continued. Not just occasional conflicts between nations, but constant, brutal warfare that has refined their military thinking for millennia. Every major war drove rapid technological advancement. The Empress saw recordings of World War II, where humans had developed atomic weapons in just 4 years. She watched footage of the Cold War, where the threat of destruction had pushed them to create incredible technologies. The Terran corporate wars had taught them to fight in space. They are not just warriors, she whispered in growing realization. They are the ultimate predators. Yes, Your Majesty, and we have been treating them like prey. Meanwhile, on Earth, the true scope of humanity's preparations was finally being revealed to the galactic community. President Helen Martinez stood before the Global Defense Council in the Secure Command Center beneath Geneva. The Empire still does not understand what they are truly facing, she announced to the assembled leaders. Our analysis of their communications shows they believe we are a young species that got lucky with advanced technology. They have no idea we have been preparing for this exact scenario for over 3 centuries. General Chung activated a 3-dimensional star map that filled the center of the room. Red dots marked Zephyrian positions while blue dots showed human forces. But there were far more blue dots than anyone had expected. Project Looking Glass began in 2157, when our deep space sensors first detected Zephyrian scout ships approaching our territory. Chang explained. We have had 300 years to study their technology, tactics, psychology, and weaknesses. Every human colony has been designed as a fortress world. Every trade ship doubles as a reconnaissance vessel. Every peaceful gesture has been carefully calculated to make them underestimate our true capabilities. Secretary of Defense Roy Bell leaned forward in his chair. What about their allied species? Surely some of them will continue to support the Empire. Dr. Foster smiled coldly as she activated another display. We have been in secret contact with 17 different species currently under Imperial rule. It turns out nobody likes the Zephyrians very much. They have been waiting for someone to show them that the Empire can be defeated. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity had not just been preparing to defend themselves. They had been systematically engineering the downfall of the entire Zephyrian Empire. Sir, we are receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations, announced Colonel Hayes. The Empire is assembling its final reserve fleet. Intelligence estimates over 5,000 ships from every corner of the galaxy. President Martinez nodded grimly. Then it is time to end this charade once and for all. Admiral Cooper, you are authorized to reveal our true military strength. Admiral Cooper stood at the central command console and input his authorization codes. Across human space, quantum transmitters sent coded signals to hidden facilities that had remained secret for centuries. On Luna, massive doors opened in what had appeared to be mining complexes. Giant shipyards that had been disguised as industrial facilities began launching vessels that made the Empire's largest ships look small. Each one was sleek, deadly, and equipped with technologies that were decades ahead of anything the Zephyrians possessed. The asteroid belt came alive with activity as hundreds of hidden bases revealed themselves. What the Empire had dismissed as mining operations were actually the largest military construction facilities in galactic history. Captain Jennifer North stood on the bridge of the EDF supercarrier Freedom as it emerged from its concealed hangar inside a hollowed-out asteroid. The massive ship was over 20 kilometers long and carried 1,000 fighter craft, each one equipped with miniaturized phase drives. All squadrons, prepare for combat deployment, she announced over the ship's communication system. Today, we show the galaxy what 3 centuries of human engineering can accomplish. Similar scenes were playing out throughout the solar system and beyond. The human fleet was not the few hundred ships the Empire believed existed. It was over 10,000 vessels of unprecedented size and capability. Admiral Morrison, now commanding the entire deep strike fleet from his flagship the EDF Defiance, watched as his forces assembled. Ships that had been hidden for generations emerged from secret bases, asteroid facilities, and dimensional pocket storage. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Morrison, he broadcast on the tactical frequency. Operation Prometheus is now in effect. The gloves are finally coming off. On distant worlds, human colonists who had lived as simple farmers and miners for generations suddenly revealed their true nature. Every colony was a fortress. Every civilian was a trained soldier. Every peaceful settlement was a military base, in disguise. The Zephyrian Empire had spent 1,000 years believing they were the masters of the galaxy. They were about to discover they had been sharing space with predators far more dangerous than themselves. In her throne room, Empress Velnara received the final intelligence reports about human military strength. The numbers were impossible to believe. How had they hidden so much for so long? "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" General Haxmore asked quietly. The Empress stared out at her capital city, knowing it might be the last time she saw it intact. "Assemble every ship we have left. Call in every favor, every alliance, every debt. If we are going to face extinction, we will do so with honor." The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The final battle for Earth began at exactly dawn on July 4th, 2487. Human planners had chosen the date deliberately for its symbolic meaning in their history. The entire surviving Zephyrian Imperial Navy dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, ready to destroy the human homeworld once and for all. Over 5,000 ships stretched across space in the largest fleet ever assembled. Massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying entire planets, formed the core of the armada. Around them, thousands of smaller vessels created a wall of firepower that could reduce whole star systems to cosmic dust. Empress Velnara commanded, personally from her fortress ship, the Imperial Throne. The vessel was 30 kilometers long and carried more weapons than some entire fleets. She stood on the command bridge, surrounded by the greatest military minds in the Empire. "Today we end this human rebellion forever," she declared to her assembled admirals. "No species has ever defied the Empire and survived. These mammals will learn the price of challenging our authority." Through the massive viewing ports, she could see the blue world of Earth hanging peacefully in space. Around it, the few dozen human ships that remained looked pathetically small compared to her mighty armada. "Begin the final bombardment," she commanded. "Reduce their cities to ash and their people to slaves." But as the first wave of plasma cannons charged and fired, something impossible happened. The planet Earth was simply not there anymore. In Dafu, its place hung a massive space station that defied all understanding of engineering and physics. The structure was larger than most moons, bristling with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Where Earth's continents should have been, additional battle platforms floated in perfect formation, each one bigger than the Empire's greatest ships. Admiral Morrison's voice echoed across all communication frequencies, calm and professional. "Empress Velnara, you are looking at Fort Terra, humanity's greatest achievement. We moved our entire planet into a pocket dimension 3 days ago. What you see now represents our actual military capability. The space where Earth had been suddenly erupted with human warships, not hundreds but tens of thousands. Each vessel was sleek and deadly, equipped with technologies that made Imperial weapons look like ancient relics. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. Ships that could phase in and out of reality struck without warning. Vessels that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously attacked from impossible angles. Captain Jennifer North commanded the supercarrier Freedom as her fighter squadrons deployed. Each small craft was equipped with miniaturized phase drives and quantum weapons that could tear through any known armor. "All squadrons, you are cleared to engage," she announced. "Show them what 3 centuries of preparation looks like." Satellite fighters moved through the Imperial formation like hawks among sheep. They phased through shields and armor as if they were made of air, delivering devastating attacks to critical systems before vanishing again. But the human capital ships were even more terrifying. Admiral Kate Sanders commanded the battleship, Liberty, as it materialized inside a Zephyrian dreadnought and fired its main guns point-blank into the enemy reactor core. "Direct hit," she reported calmly. "Target destroyed, moving to next objective." The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority. Human ships danced through the Imperial formation with impossible grace, striking with perfect precision before disappearing into other dimensions. Zephyrian shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved useless against matter that could phase in and out of reality. Their massive guns could not target ships that existed in multiple universes simultaneously. Empress Velnara watched in horror as her mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds were being torn apart, like paper. Her most experienced admirals were falling silent one by one as their vessels were eliminated. "How are they doing this?" she demanded of her science officer. "Unknown, Your Majesty. They appear to have mastered technologies we did not even know were possible. Our weapons cannot affect targets that exist outside normal space-time." But the final blow came when Admiral Sanders activated the Prometheus array. For over a century, human agents had been secretly placing quantum disruptor devices throughout the galaxy. The network had taken generations to complete and had cost trillions of credits. In a single moment, every Zephyrian ship lost its faster-than-light capability. Their hyperspace engines simply stopped working, trapping them in normal space with no hope of escape. "Attention, Imperial Fleet," Morrison broadcast across all frequencies. "You are now stranded in this system. Your empire is finished. We have similar disruptor networks around your capital world and 17 other core systems. Surrender now and we will discuss terms for your survival." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human fleets emerged from hidden bases that had been disguised for centuries. Allied species that had been secretly armed and trained by human advisors rose in rebellion against their Zephyrian overlords. The carefully planned revolution was succeeding beyond all expectations. Government after government declared independence from the Empire. Entire sectors switched sides as the news of the Imperial defeat spread. Empress Velnara stared at the tactical display showing the collapse of her civilization. Red dots, representing loyal forces, were disappearing one by one, replaced by blue markers indicating human allied territory. "How long have you been planning this?" she asked quietly. Morrison's image appeared on her main screen. The human admiral's expression was not triumphant, but rather tired and professional, like a craftsman who had completed a difficult job. "Empress, you made the same mistake every bully makes. You assumed that because we did not fight back immediately, we could not fight back at all. The truth is, we have been planning this operation for 300 years. Every primitive ship you have seen, every weak response to your aggression, every peaceful gesture we made was designed to encourage your overconfidence. We studied your empire, learned your weaknesses, and built a civilization specifically designed to destroy yours. Not because we are evil, but because history has taught us that sometimes the only way to ensure lasting peace is to be so overwhelmingly powerful that war becomes unthinkable." As the last Imperial ship surrendered, President Martinez addressed the galaxy from her command center on Fort Terra. "To all species currently under Imperial rule, you are free to choose your own destiny. To the Zephyrian people, you will not be harmed, but your empire of conquest is finished forever. And to any other would-be conquerors who might be listening to this broadcast, remember this day well. Terran space is prohibited not because we ask politely, but because we have the power to enforce our sovereignty absolutely. We are humanity. We warned you we were here. We told you to stay away. You chose to ignore those warnings. Now you understand why they were given. The Galactic Empire learned too late that some warnings should be heeded. In trying to force their way through human space, they had awakened a species that had spent centuries preparing for exactly this moment. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The age of human-led galactic democracy had begun. But as Admiral Morrison watched the surrender ceremonies, he knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, other threats were watching, learning, and planning their own moves. And when they came, Humanity would be ready for them, too. After all, being prepared for war was what humans did better than any other species in the universe.